And we're back with another thought leadership podcast series. This is Abe Cohn with THC Legal Group. We're welcoming a new guest today, Maya with Ohm Edibles. Welcome to the podcast, Maya.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is so exciting for us. So tell us about yourself. All of our listeners want to know who you are, what your business is about, how you got into the industry. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Well, I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised, and I am 34 years old. My love for cannabis runs very deep.
Okay.
I've been a long time partaker. I have witnessed and been able to participate in many, many countless cannabis miracles, and I truly honor and respect this medicine. My intention has always been and will always be to make the best medical cannabis products possible. We currently have an all-female collective, which was not a planned thing. It was just very organic forming of good friends who love cannabis and happen to be women.
Okay.
And I started Edibles about 8 years ago. And then this last year, we just launched Whoopi and Maya as well, which is Whoopi Goldberg's vision for women in medical cannabis. It's a line that's made for women on their monthly moon cycles, 4 products.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's been awesome too. And just moving right along and creating the best possible products that we can.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's so interesting. So, for all of our listeners who don't quite know what a collective is, what does that mean? How does a person get to be a part of one, even if not yours, but, what does it mean to be a collective?
Great. Yeah, there's lots of different ways to look at the word. The way that I'm using it is for Proposition 215, which is the medical cannabis movement here in California. Yeah, so although Prop 64 just passed and we have regulations kicking in about a year, the way we've been doing things has been to form a medical cannabis collective, which is something that you can form to protect your garden and provide medicine for medical patients. So we've been providing medicine for our group of patients for over a decade now, and people from all different types of socioeconomical classes and different age groups, all different types of demographics. Some of them have MS or cancer or back problems. So all different types of people that we provide medicine for in our collective.
That's so interesting to hear you refer to it as medicine. Many of the people that we work with, and certainly many advocates of cannabis, either want to promote its legitimacy by considering it, as you said, a medicine, and then alternatively, many of the people on the policy side, certainly people within libertarian circles, just want to say, well, listen, medicine, recreational, it doesn't really matter. The government shouldn't have anything to do with it. But I think it's great that you're going with the former approach. One thing I'd be curious to learn about is kind of your perspective on government regulation. So if it is in fact a medicine, do you think, and do people in your collective feel, that it should be regulated as all other medicines are regulated, or should it be looked at differently? How do you kind of see that?
Well, this is a great question, and before I go into that, I'd love to just point out that in my perspective, all cannabis use is medical on some level.
Okay.
Even if you're at a concert and you're listening to your favorite group perform and you smoke the perfect strain and you're just in your body and feeling it and you're in that moment, that is so medicinal because your immune system is able to properly function. And it truly is a preventative medicine at that point. You're de-stressing yourself, you're living in the moment, you're not worrying or having anxiety. Those are all things that affect your immune system in a negative way. So to me, if I look at the person as a holistic approach, I realize it's all connected. So I do believe there is some medicinal value to all cannabis use.
I see. Okay, very interesting.
Yeah, that's just my perspective and what I've gathered from my experiences. I'm obviously not a doctor.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as the regulation for medical cannabis goes, it's a really interesting time for medical cannabis. I do believe that it should be regulated in a lot of ways. Like if somebody with a compromised immune system, which many medical patients have, or someone who's using your product as a replacement or alternative to chemotherapy, we should definitely be making sure that those people are not unintentionally consuming pesticides and molds and other harmful things, because that's not medicinal at all.
Right.
But as far as like limiting milligramming goes and stuff, I personally don't appreciate that perspective, because I know there's a lot of very sick people out there that need sometimes 1,000 milligrams, and to ask that person to eat 35 10 milligram cookies or whatever it could be, it might affect their glycemic index and lead to obesity, not to mention a lot of people that are really sick do not have an appetite.
Right.
So
I see. So it
yeah,
could,
yeah.
Well, from what I'm gathering, it could very well be that a person kind of using your framework of regulation could still allow for, quote, regulation, as long as it's done in a more judicious way. So
right.
It's true that we certainly need some sort of oversight, but that does not mean that we want Big Brother government limiting it in ways that are, frankly, completely nonsensical.
Cannabis is very unique. It's a very unique industry, a very interesting phenomenon that, unless you've really partaken and experienced firsthand, it's pretty hard to quote unquote regulate from the outside view. It's not like alcohol. It's not like tobacco.
Right.
It's a very personal connection to a plant that has a lot of different varieties and affects each person differently. And even one person who uses the same medicine for years and years and years, those needs can shift. And it happens all the time. I recently just experienced that myself. And so I do believe it's deeply personal.
I see. Okay. So if you don't mind sharing, how, you said that you recently experienced this kind of transition in perhaps how.
Yeah, it's so interesting. For 20 years I've been a heavy THC intake person. I mean, from morning, noon, night, all the time, can't get enough of it. And I recently, in the last like 3 months or so, just took one day off for clarity, and I was like, wow, you know what? I feel really, really good. And the next day I was like, I feel great. This clarity of mind is really helping me. I have a little more energy. I'm feeling inspired with my life, and just a little bit of a different head change. And I realized that maybe my patient needs have shifted. So I went from heavy THC all day, every day, to like, how can I now get these cannabinoids in my body without feeling so very altered all the time?
Wow. Okay.
So yeah. At night, I definitely smoke THC strains. I love to get home from work and enjoy and have a great night's sleep. But every day I take a cannabis bath. I want those cannabinoids all over my skin to protect my skin. Yeah, the baths are amazing.
What does that entail? Is that in the form of some salts, or is it through?
Yeah, we do medicated Epsom salts for both companies, and they're phenomenal. Magnesium topically is extremely effective, and that's what an Epsom salt is a magnesium salt. So it helps muscle soreness, and applying what we know about cannabis, which is that it has been known to kill cancer in certain lab tests, and applying what we know with the ozone layer, that we're walking around with these holes in the ozone layer and lots of harmful things that we don't have a choice of whether we're subjected to or not. I swear by the topicals. I mean, I just can't tell you enough good things about using cannabis topically. And so, yeah, I do the baths. I do a coconut oil from head to toe every day with tons of THC and CBD in it. I drink the CBD chocolate drink that we make, the cacao. It makes me feel so good.
Can our listeners come to your website and purchase all of these products potentially, or how will people be able to connect with you and enjoy these products also?
Well, because we're a medical cannabis company, you cannot purchase our stuff online. We're only available for medical cannabis patients in California, but you can go to our website and find a list of dispensaries that are legally dispensing our products.
I see. Okay, excellent. That's good.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure to direct users to that at the end of the show.
Yeah, and one last touch on that whole shift thing is, I personally view cannabis as a supplement, something I strive to get in my body every day. So the high of cannabis is just a side effect, and it's desirable by many and not by some. And sometimes it's a great time for it, and sometimes it's not.
Right.
So it's all about appreciating every part of the plant that we can use.
So do you also make an effort to consume CBD independent of the THC component of cannabis, or do you look at it as, you ingest cannabis and you hope to garner the benefits of both THC and the CBD in one sitting?
Both have tremendous benefit, and I believe that together it makes a superior medicine. So I don't know if you've heard of the entourage effect.
I have not, but I'm fascinated.
It's really interesting. It's just how cannabinoids work together to make a superior medicine. So I'm not necessarily against the hemp CBD. I think more research needs to be done.
Okay.
But I do believe that if you would like the benefits of CBD, there must be a little bit of THC present.
You're right.
Well,
The real issue is that CBD derived from kind of strict cannabis, which also includes THC, is unfortunately still illegal under the Controlled Substance Act. And of course, CBD, which is derived from hemp, does not fall under the Controlled Substance Act's provision. So, yeah, unfortunately for interested users who are not within states where it's legalized, they can only access CBD that is derived from hemp. Hopefully, we'll see that change soon.
Yeah, the other issue is that a lot of the hemp stuff is not really regulated, and so it can be extracted in ways that contain heavy metals and other impurities that can have a counter medicinal effect.
Yeah.
So it's just all about knowing your sources and really finding the best stuff. And I do believe there's a lot of medicinal value, and I just think more research needs to be done, because sometimes people use the facts from cannabis-derived CBD, in the place of hemp-derived.
Right, exactly. Well, I know you said you're based out of California. Have you kind of noticed a shift in the mentality among cannabis users since the passing of legislation last week?
It's so funny. I was driving around the day after Prop 64 passed. I'm like, wow, I don't smell any more weed or any less weed than I normally do in the Bay. Like, I take a walk every morning here in the Oakland Hills, and I smell cannabis at least 3 times at like 8 in the morning, people just driving by. And I didn't notice not one single difference. I didn't see one extra person smoking, nobody rejoicing, and I just truly believe it was the Trump thing was just overshadowing all this good news. So it's really interesting. I actually noticed that I didn't see any difference at all.
Wow, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Huh. Okay. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the fact that there really is no, let's call it a superficial difference at least, is one of the reasons California was so heavily criticized, that the state was taking advantage of its medicinal program, and people who so clearly were not getting properly certified by doctors were still having incredible access to it anyways. But in any event, it's nice to see at least the West Coast really taking a major move towards full commercialization, which we'll see across the rest of the nation. Oh, that's wonderful. So tell us about like the community in California. What does it mean to be involved in cannabis and in California to you?
Let's see.
It's a big question, obviously.
It's been a long, beautiful road. This industry is so unique. The last 10 years has been almost undescribable. It's been a series of tiny baby steps of inching forward and forward and forward to take risks to make this happen. Our California industry was built on the backs of sick people, AIDS patients, and people who were willing to sacrifice their life and freedom to make medicine. So it's been a beautiful path. A lot of people have taken a lot of falls for this. A lot of people have taken a lot of risks and sacrifices to make this whole thing happy. And here we sit today, coming from a place of like hide and don't brand to like brand. So it's been very interesting to watch it happen. I am very grateful for our cannabis community. There are good people that stick together. There are a lot of people who have rushed to this industry to make money. Which I don't necessarily have a judgment about, but I do believe if you love cannabis and are heart connected to it, you will make superior products and be able to understand patients' needs a little bit more. It's all about compassionate pricing in my perspective and making your medicine available for people.
Beautiful. Well, one of our clients in California is an edibles company. She's kind of, I would say, dipping her toes into the process. She has a product, but one of the challenges that she's facing is finding a place um, to kind of build out her business, both to actually manufacture the goods and then also hopefully to be involved in the sale side of it. Everything is being worked out, but landlords are so reluctant to rent out space for her. I'm just wondering if you've kind of experienced any of these difficulties and what sort of logistical problems have arisen during the course of your own business operations, given its federal
Totally.
legality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a really big challenge, and I do believe that's going to be shifting. That will probably be one of the positive shifts that's going to happen. I think people will become less and less fearful because there was this whole thing going on where a landlord would get threatened that their property would be taken if they had a cannabis business.
Yeah.
So I've witnessed that and experienced that before, and that's not a good feeling for anybody, not for the landlord or the person who desires to manufacture medical cannabis. I hope it will loosen up more and more because space has been very limited and regulation is upon us.
Yeah.
So
Do you
but
like-
I believe we're like the safest tenants. I mean, you get into different areas if you start talking about certain volatile solvents and stuff like that. But just as far as manufacturing edibles and topicals go, I truly believe we're the best tenants because we're always walking on eggshells to make sure that people know that we're respecting their space and abiding by the laws to the best of our ability.
Yeah, and feel free to not answer this if you would not like to. But do you feel that your landlord perhaps has taken advantage of you, or any of these other, let's say, players in the process have taken advantage, knowing that there is perhaps something still stigmatized, and of course, along with that, a bigger risk? Do you think that you're paying more than you otherwise should be paying?
I do believe that is very common. Yes, I do
Uh-huh.
believe that is very common.
Wonderful. I mean, it's a challenge because the challenge, of course, anytime you break into one of these new industries, the risks are higher, but hopefully the rewards are equally, high and commensurate with the risk. But it's an exciting field to be in. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like, I know we touched upon this briefly, but there are many people within the industry, but do you feel like there is a community aspect to this industry?
I do. There definitely has been, and I still believe there is. Absolutely. I know there's a lot of new people coming in, so we'll see what the future will hold. But from my experience, I've been blessed to have a good sense of community.
Wonderful. So, and tell us about the new venture that you're doing with Whoopi Goldberg. How did that come about, and what are you looking to achieve? What are its objectives? Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Sure. What an interesting thing, this thing called life. The whole line was actually Whoopi's idea.
Okay.
And she reached out to some people at High Times who then reached out to us because we're a female collective. We had won some awards and asked if we'd be the people to talk to about this. And we said yes. And we began formulating our creations, and we launched in April of this year. So it's everything a lady wants on her moon cycle. It's medicated Epsom salt soak, so a bath.
Okay.
It's a multi-herb topical that you can rub all over your abdomen and anywhere you feel pain.
I see.
It's 2 different types of raw chocolate that's absolutely delicious and a superfood. They're made out of 6 ingredients, all organic, raw, vegan, gluten-free, fair trade. And then a multi-herb tincture, which has been actually helping with women's next cycle and overall improve women's health and cycle as a whole. So it's got, it's a multi-herb line. So we've taken herbs that have been helping women through menstrual discomfort for thousands of years and combine them with cannabis because we view cannabis as a healing herb or a superfood.
Wow, that is,
we also,
yeah. No,
we also believe that our products are only as good as the ingredients that we use to make them. So it's almost 100% organic ingredients, from the root to the fruit, just putting in the work necessary to make superior products.
Well, to me, that's fascinating on a number of levels. I, of course, don't have any personal experience with dealing with menstrual pain or discomfort, but I would imagine that it would be different for each woman. How do you know how to what sort of dosages would be appropriate, and is there how did you kind of come up with the spectrum, let's call it, of dosage use for each woman, and how do you go about infusing that into the products to make sure it's not too much or too little for each user?
Well, there's two layers to this question.
Okay.
The first thing is the way we make our milligrams accurate is by rigorous lab testing.
Uh-huh.
So everything that's released has already been tested like 4 to 5 times, from the infusion to the finished product before we release it. The way that I designed our milligramming was actually very intentional, like the chocolate, for example. First of all, there's patients with all different types of needs,
Right.
so it's hard to standardize. And if there's one thing I've learned about medical cannabis, it's that for every heavy hitter, there's a featherweight. So some people don't want to feel altered and they just want relief. Other people are in excruciating pain and need very high milligrams. So you get to something like the chocolate and you're going to hear it either way. If you have to eat 2 tablespoons to get a considerable serving size, people are going to say, oh, I have to eat so much of it. And if you make it way too powerful, they're going to go, but it's so delicious and I don't get to eat any of it. Right. So, yeah, because of that, we actually just came out with an extra strength cacao.
Okay.
But what I did was my company considers a proper serving between 10 and 25 milligrams of THC. So I made each tablespoon 12.5 milligrams. And the extra strength, each tablespoon is 25 milligrams. So going back to that cannabis is personal thing, I really avoid recommending a certain number for people to consume. There's just too many variables.
Well, so how
so I can just educate people.
Yeah, okay. No, I love that answer. I mean, I think it's important. Well, one of the things that certainly we're trying to do, and which I think is important for the industry, is to ensure that people realize that this is in fact a well-regimented, rigorous kind of process. The goods that are going in and out are legitimate. It's not Cheech and Chong's basement. These are serious people making serious products. That's spectacular. So, and
our whole line is very intentional.
Wow, and you've gotten great feedback, I would imagine, from many of your patients.
It's blown me away. I can't tell you how grateful I am to receive these testimonials, because that's how I measure success. If patients are coming back and offering you positive feedback that you haven't solicited or asked for, you're doing something right. So I've literally been blown away that women have written very long messages of personal detail and testimonial about their very personal experience of possibly being scheduled for a hysterectomy because their cramps were so bad, and being able to avoid that surgery. All because of a topical, something so non-invasive and affordable and easy to apply, that with no negative side effects. It doesn't mess up your liver, anything. So it's pretty incredible what cannabis can do, especially in terms of topicals.
That is wonderful. Well, I think we're wrapping up here, and I think on that note, if you could just kind of sum up in one pithy way what you love about being in this industry, what drives you, and what kind of makes you tick when you wake up in the morning. What is it about this industry that you just love?
Cannabis miracles, they are real. We get to provide them and participate in them and witness them for patients. And sometimes all it takes is a topical. So my true joy and connection with this industry is about helping others and being able to provide superior products that people can both enjoy and find relief from. So I do believe it's the healing of the nation, and that all different people can enjoy cannabis if they find the right product in the right amount.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on our show. If you'd like to direct any of our listeners to your website, or how can people get a hold of you and kind of connect with you and your products?
Great. We are Om Edibles. That's OM Edibles at .org
Okay.
for the one company, and we're also on Instagram and Facebook. And then we're also Whoopi and Maya, WHOOPIANDMAYA.com. And we also are on Facebook and Instagram for that as well.
Beautiful.
So feel free to check us out if you want to see what we've been making and where to find our products.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again, Maya. We really loved having you on the show, and we're looking forward to seeing what more you contribute to the industry in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time.
Okay, Maya. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.